let's look at the responses for Google Forms. Now, this data assessment needs assessment for data management training. I have already received some responses to this. So what I'll do now is I'll go to the responses tab here on the top. So far we were only looking at the questions tab, which is where we create the questions. Now I will look at the responses tab. So if I go to the responses, I see I have received 2 responses and they have been filled by 2 people, and this is for every question that we have listed here. It automatically generates a basic pie chart or a graph for us, and you see in the district it shows us 50% which is one person has marked Kalimpong, the other has marked Paschim Bardhaman. Same for all the other questions that we have here. Gender also, one is male, one is female. Now this is the interesting bit. In the multiple choice grid, we had all these multiple questions, MS Excel, PowerPoint, Google Forms, and we had these options: no experience, some experience, well experienced, and expert. And we can see here for MS Excel, 2 people have answered, one has marked themselves as no experience and one has marked as some experience. For Google Sheets, you have only one option, which is some experience, and both 2 people who have answered the question so far have selected the same option. But here we see one person has said in data analysis they have expert, more than 5 years of experience they have in data analysis. Now I want to find out who is this one person. Now one way to do this is to take a look at all the responses. Now how do you look at all the responses? You just click on view in sheets. Now what it does is it opens a Google Sheets file where, look at this, it's showing me the complete data for that Google form, and I can see for every question who has answered in what way. So I can see what is your current skill level in data analysis, and I can simply filter from here who has marked themselves as expert, and these are all the people, and I can find their details from there. But a simpler way of doing it, a first level way of doing it would be to simply go to the question tab in the responses sheet. I go to this question tab and then I go to this what is your current skill level question, and I select the data analysis option, and I can see that there are 2 responses. One is well experienced and one is expert, and I can simply click on this one response and see, okay, this person is the one who has. I click on response 2 and it takes me to the individual response of that person, and I can see, okay, it is this person who has marked themselves as expert in data analysis, and then I can proceed from here. So just by staying in the Google Forms interface, we can already do a very rigorous simple level of analysis of all the data that we are receiving in our Google form. So this is the responses tab, and you're seeing here that in next to every chart there is a copy button. What it does is it simply copies the chart as an image. So this whole white box that you're seeing here, it gets copied as an image, and then you can just paste it directly in either Microsoft Word or Excel or wherever you want to paste it, and it's simply pasted as an image. So this is the responses tab, and you have the summary, question, and individual. Now here, this is a very important toggle button you have here. This is accepting responses. So currently it is on. So if I were to share this form with someone, they will be able to fill it. But soon as I turn this off, it is no longer accepting responses, and I can put a message there for anyone who shows up on the form link. By default, it will show this form is no longer accepting responses. But if there's any other message I want to give, I can type that here also. Then the other options we have in this is by clicking here, where you can get email notifications for new responses. Say you are circulating a survey and you want to be notified every time someone fills the survey, you can just select this option, and what it will do is that anytime the form is filled, you will get an email in your Google Mail, which is the account with which you have created this form. In that account, you will receive an email anytime the form is filled by anyone. The other option you have here is to select the destination for responses. When I click on this, by default, for every form that you create, Google will create a relevant Google Sheet for that form in your Google Drive. But if you want to select a existing spreadsheet, you can do that also. It's always a good idea to create a new spreadsheet for every new Google form that you create. So that's another option. And another simple one is you can simply download all responses as a CSV file, which you can then open in Microsoft Excel or any other software. And then of course you have the print all responses, which will create a PDF of all the individual responses, and delete all responses, which will clear all the responses that have been received. You should be careful with delete all responses, because once deleted, you cannot bring that data back. It will be gone forever. So this is the responses tab in Google Forms. Now we have the settings tab. In the settings tab, there is an option called make this a quiz. Now this is another feature of Google Forms which is very relevant mostly in a classroom setting where a teacher might want to conduct a quiz. And it is useful to be aware that this option, that there is this option. Let's just quickly do a quick demonstration of how this is done. So I'll go to a new form. I've already created this data management quiz here, and I've added two questions. Which of the following is not a valid option in Google Forms? And the other question is, what is the capital of West Bengal? Now, how do I make this a quiz? I'll go to settings and I'll turn this on. Soon as I turn this on, you see it shows here total points 2. And when I go to the questions tab, what it is doing now is it has this answer key option that is showing here. Previously it was not showing. Now it is showing because I've turned this into a quiz. So when I click on answer key, I can select which is the right option here. So which of the following is not a valid option in Google Forms? Live chat is not an option, so I'll select that and I'll mark that this question is 1 point. So I'll click done and it shows a tick mark here. Similarly, for the text based input also, I can mark the answer key. So what is the capital of West Bengal? I can add Kolkata, but I can also add multiple correct answers. So instead of Kolkata, I can also add Calcutta. And then I can mark all other answers as incorrect. So if someone were to write any other thing other than Kolkata or Calcutta, they would not get point for this question. And this is again 1 point, or I can change it to 2, 3, 4, 5, however many points I want. The other option you have here is add answer feedback. Now in the feedback, you can write whatever, say as the teacher, I want to give this feedback to my students who are filling this. The feedback can be the capital of West Bengal is Kolkata or Calcutta, and alongside that I can put a link or a video. So say I want to add a YouTube video here, so I'll just put let's just find a video, this one, what is the capital of West Bengal? So I can just select this, insert. So when the student gets feedback on this question, they will see this text and they will see this video next to this text. So this is how a quiz can be created. When you circulate this quiz, students will fill all the options for every question, and everything else works the same way. The question types are the same and the required is the same, the description and all of that is the same. Just that for every question now you can have an answer key associated and points associated with it. And at the end, when the student submits the form, you have these settings here that you can immediately mark their test and release the marks received to them, or you can do it later, in which case the student will have to enter a valid email address, and then when you manually mark their answer sheet, then the result will be sent to their email. So these are some options that you have for making a quiz. Let's look at the other options you have in Google Form. Settings. So other than make a quiz, you have this responses settings, which shows you whether you want to collect email addresses. Now the option you have here is, one is do not collect, which is very simple. No one has to fill in their any email address or be logged into their Google account. They can simply fill the form. The other option is you can do responder input, in which the responder will manually input their email address. Let's see what that looks like. When I click on preview, it automatically adds this email question on the top where I have to fill in my email address, and in case there is an error in my email address, it will also check that it's a valid email address or not. So you don't have to do that yourself. You can simply, in the settings, you can just set collect email address to responder input. The other option you have is verified. Now what verified does is that the respondents will be required to sign into Google. Now what this happens is when I go on preview, you see it shows this email here, record that guru@gmail.com, which is my email address, is the email to be included with my response. So I have to select this, otherwise I can't go forward from here. And if I'm not logged in, let's see what happens if I'm not logged in, then I cannot open this file because I have to sign in first. So if you click on this verified option, only a signed in person can then fill the form. You have to, only people with a Google account can fill the form. Then you have this option of sending responders a copy of their response. Say you have a survey form in which there were some 15-20 options, and that survey form, the person who has filled it would also like to keep a copy of what they have filled. So you can just turn this either to always on or when requested. If you do it when requested, then at the end of the form, when the person submits it, there is an option for that person to click a button and receive a copy of the survey that they have just filled. Otherwise, you can set it to always and people will always receive whatever survey they have filled in on their email. Another option you have is allow response editing. In this case, what happens is, it's very clearly mentioned here, responses can be changed after being submitted. So if you turn this on, then any person, say I have logged in with my Gmail account and I filled this form, then I can go back to that form and my previous input will already be shown there, and I can just change some of my input and press submit again and the data will get changed. So this is allow response editing. If you want to limit that only one person per email address should be able to fill in the form, then you have to select the limit to one response. If I turn this on, then the person will first have to sign into their Google form, and then they can only fill the form once. They cannot fill the form multiple times. If this is off and this is still on, then I only have to log into my Google form, but I can still my Google account, but I can still fill the form many times. If I limit to one response, then I can only fill it once. So these are the settings you have under responses. Under presentation, you have a few more options which are more visual. So show progress bar, what it does is it shows a little bar on the top which shows how much progress you have made while filling the form. So if it's a very long form, it acts as an indicator to the person who's filling that, okay, this you have done 50% or you have done 70%, and there's a few more questions to go. Then you have shuffle question order. So when you create the questions, they are in a certain order and they will always be shown in that order. But if you select the shuffle question order option, then every time it will show the questions in a randomized order. Now this is often not helpful because when you are creating a survey especially, then the order of the question is often very well structured and well thought out, so you shouldn't randomize it, but sometimes it may be helpful, so you can choose it accordingly. And after the form is submitted, an automatic message is shown that your response has been recorded. You can change this message here, and you have a few other options, which is auto save. So auto save is very helpful because if a person fills a form and then say they do something else on their phone, they get a phone call or their laptop, battery goes away, then when they open the form again, the responses that they have previously filled in will be automatically saved and shown to them again. But as the form creator, if you were to disable that, then anytime a person's form gets lost, though the input that they have done so far is lost, and they have to start the filling the form all over again from scratch. So as it mentions here, respondents will lose their progress if their browser is closed or refreshed. So it is always a good idea to leave this off because it is helpful to the person filling the form. Now these are the basic settings of a Google form. We've covered questions, responses, settings, we've covered customization, we've covered how to preview, Now the last thing left is how do you share a form? Now you share a form using the send button. When you click the send button, you first option it shows you is to email. Often you don't want to email it, so what you do is you select this link button, and here you get this link. If you press the shorten URL, it gives you a shorter URL, this one, and you can simply just copy it from here. And once you copy it, now this link you can put in any email, WhatsApp, however you like. You can put this anywhere, and when any person were to click on this link or open this link in their browser, they will be taken to your Google form and they can start filling it in. Let's see how it works. So I'll just copy it and I'll open a new tab and I'll put this link there. I'll press enter, and you see the form that I had just created has shown up and I can start filling the form. So that's how sharing a form works. Last thing that we need to know about Google Forms is the add collaborators. Now this is common not only to Google Forms, it's also common to the entire Google Drive. So in Google Drive, Google Docs, Google Sheets, Google Forms, everywhere this option exists of adding collaborators, and what it does is it lets you work with multiple people on creating the same form. So in this, I can add editors to this form. Now let's say I have another colleague who I want to add as a collaborator on this form. Then I can simply type their email here. Let's say their email is gurjot@gmail.com, and I'll type their email here. And then I can select whether I want to add them as an editor, and that's the only option here. I'll select that, and then I'll just press the send button and they'll get an email in which it will be shown to them that they have been invited as a collaborator for this form. And if they select that invitation, then they will also be able to edit this Google form the same way as you are editing this form. So you are the owner, and once you add a collaborator, the other person gets shared ownership of this Google form. So it is helpful in an office setting where multiple people may be working as collaborators on a single form or on a single Google Sheet or Google Doc. And you can just by adding a collaborator, you can all work together on the same document. We'll talk more about this in the next module in Google Sheets as well. That's it for Google Forms. I'll see you in the next module.